Welcome to this week's edition of Pitstop. I am Jaco van der Merwe, joined by Mark Jones and Charles Bosch. Let's dive straight into it. The new Hyundai, am I saying it right? Exter.
Exter, yes.
Exter, not enter, Exter.
Yeah.
Okay. Charles, off the bat, what is it?
Well, it's so we thought at one point it was going to be a replacement for the Atos. It's not. It's a tiny little SUV that's going to be positioned below the Grand i10. It's a car that was originally, this is what Hyundai South Africa told us, they extensively lobbied for this car to be introduced. Hyundai India said, no, it's going to be an India-specific model. And eventually, all the nagging, whatever, paid off. And they got the Exter for South Africa. They're bringing in an initial batch of, I think, 1,000 units. And then they're probably ramping it up. This is according to a report from India. They are going to be probably ramping it up once demand starts.
Mark, small crossover SUV, that's where all the action is nowadays. Huh?
Hey, listen, that's winner, chicken dinner, you know. It's everybody wants to play there. And that's sort of 300, sub 300 category.
Well, even like 30 grand less, starting at 269.
Yep, that's the sweet spot. I mean, if they can, we know that from all the recent little launches on these compact SUVs, 300 and below, you're shopping in the right area. It's the Suzuki success story, having well-priced, hopefully reliable cars. They should be.
Yep.
I think they're onto something.
They are. I mean, it's supposed to be so. Just give me a second. It's supposed to be a funky little thing. That's the whole point. So what they did was they had a local artist. If you can put the camera there, that's what their interpretation of funky is, by having something that's fun, that's a bit of a laugh, and that's cute and so on. So that's basically a caricature of me. What I'm supposed.
I was saying, what about the car? Is that also cute and fun?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the car. Not talking about me. This is just a caricature of me. But it's supposed to be. That whole thing is supposed to be a fun drawing. I'm not going to say laugh at yourself, because I did laugh at myself a couple of times thinking, is that how I really look?
Eyebrows. I can't even see them.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, if you ignore that, I'm not going to call it a joke. That character of me is a bit of a joke. But that's the whole point, is to be funky, is to be expressive. There was a lot of thought that went into this, especially, I mean, we always bang on about colours of the car. That was one of the main things, just to... one of our colleagues said it actually looks like a tiny little Lego block, which it almost does. But that's the whole point of that thing. Being cheap and entry level, and a small SUV is not supposed to be drab and boring, which is the whole sort of one of the aspects of the selling points of that car.
Yeah, they're probably not going to be too happy with those words, cheap, or the word. Let's
probably
make it
not
affordable.
Yes,
make it affordable.
Yeah, sorry.
So let's jump straight into the range there. One engine, it's the 1.2. Obviously, this is based on the hatchback, the Grand i10.
Yes.
There they offer two engines, the 1 litre and the 1.2. This one, it's just the 1.2 throughout the range. But quite bizarrely, where the Grand i10 obviously offers the manual and then a 4-speed auto, the Exter has got what do we call it?
Automated manual transmission, AMT. Yes, 5-speed AMT.
Not everybody's cup of tea, but if you don't like manual, then it's always an upgrade to it. But quite bizarrely that they've gone that route. But I mean, as spec goes through the range, it's basically similar to the Grand i10.
A little bit similar, yes. What they did was, so the engine's 1.2 normally aspirated 61 kilowatts. But strangely, what they did was they've upped the torque by 2 Newton meters, because they've recalibrated the engine for what they described as high altitude areas for South Africa. So the gearing is quite short. And that was one of the little bit of issues we had at launch. The launch was in Cape Town. So you're at sea level. But at 120 kilometers per hour, we only got to drive the manual, the mid-range 1.2 executive manual. That engine was quite buzzy. It was revving at 3,800 RPM. We saw some people even got 4,000 RPM in fifth gear at the national limit. So that's probably one of the tiny little bit of annoyances that they have. But I mean, the other side is the car is for intercity driving and being a city commuter and so on. So, that's basically...
And it comes out of India.
Yes.
Where anything over about 13 k's an hour, you're going to hit a bicycle head-on, a bus, 3 cars. So you're going to die.
Yes.
Hence the reason 120, I mean, I think that's Formula One speed in India. But it is that, and it is going to buzz along. I mean, the 2 Newton meters is bizarre.
Yeah, it's strange.
I'm sure if you turn the radio a little louder, you'll lose those 2 Newton meters, and I just can't wait to test it at Geratech. I did test a Panda there once, a Fiat Panda.
Yes.
And I think it got to 0 to 100 in about 4 days. So maybe we should test this and actually see what happens. It might break the record.
Now you're being very, very rude. Now you're being very, very rude.
No, I am, but I understand it is for the city.
Yes.
We get that. I'm just saying that's why it's buzzy. I think we know that it's because India's never going to be high speed. It's
Yeah, on that subject, let's just talking about just the technicalities of that automated manual transmission.
Do we have to?
Yeah, let's just
really?
let's just straighten the record here. We don't have to say how we feel about it. Let's just say what it is. It's like an automatic. It's got 2 pedals. It's got a brake and it's got an accelerator. But now it's still got a clutch. But you just don't have a clutch pedal and you don't operate it.
Yes.
The car decides when to shift. Okay. And am I right in saying you still need to lift every time it shifts?
You don't have to lift. They encourage you when you want to buy one how to drive it, because when you drive it, normally it is horrific. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to say that differently. So what they
Shocking.
do... Yeah. So what they do is they try and tell you that you drive, and in your head you imagine that it's now revving at an RPM. This would be a shift point. And when you give it that lift, that whole shift motion seems a bit more natural and not so clunky and jerky. AMT, I tell you what, versus 4-speed in most other cars, I don't know. The guy who designed that, I truly hope he's having some bad time somewhere, because it's horrific. It isn't a good one.
But being very
isn't.
realistic here, we've experienced everything. We grew up, we've been driving manuals for a very long time. Let's say now someone who gets their license in this day and age, 2024, who let's say it's an automatic license and they've never driven, or they start learning with, it's going to be perfectly natural to them.
100%.
Absolutely.
We're spoiled. We are spoiled.
Yeah.
But that's why we offer opinion and comment.
Yeah.
But yes, a first-time driver,
Not gonna
somebody
get
who doesn't, they'll probably get used to it.
Yeah.
We get a car for a week, and we don't get time to love it lots. So they might get used to it, and they probably might live with it.
And that gearbox is only available. So you've got 3 trim levels. You've got the premium, you've got the executive, which is the one that we drove, and there's the top spec elite. The elite is AMT only. The others are available with the AMT as an option,
Where the
or the
volume
manual,
sellers would be.
or the manual gearbox. And I will say that in defense of the manuals, it is actually a very, very nice 5-speed manual gearbox. I'll put my head on the block as it's one of the nicest manual gearboxes that I've. It's light, it's snappy. It's just the long gearing or the tall gearing that's the annoying bit of that. And the rest, and the other thing, what you're also saying about India, the car's got 185 millimeters of ground clearance.
Yeah, of course.
So it actually, it's not as, I mean, we were chucking it up and down, down, up Solaris Pass, not down, up Solaris Pass, and it doesn't feel top heavy when you go into the corners and so on, and it rides very, very well for what it is.
Yeah, it's got, the look is a bit kind of exactly like Indian car, and I've seen a lot of comments. It's kind of polarizing. There's a lot of people that like the front of it. They're not in love with the rear of it so much, and the height, but you can't make everybody happy.
No.
At the price point, it's value for money.
And it's incredibly well packaged. When you look at the spec level
you
of
go.
that car, the entire range gets an 8-inch touchscreen infotainment system, and the space is, when you look at it, Lego block dinky toy, whatever you want to call it, it looks so small, and when you open the door you think, oh no, there's not going to be no space. When we did the sit behind yourself test, it's actually quite spacious in the back, and the boots, I think it's got 391 litres of boot space. Again, looks can be deceiving. You think it's going to be small. It's not. So and it's still under the sub 4 meter regulations in India as well. And it's what Yaku was saying at one point, because they can't make the car longer, they build it up to make it that way. And it's a space success. So it's very, very well packaged.
Okay, just quickly before we wrap, direct competitors, if there are any, who needs to have sleepless nights from now on?
So they were Suzuki Ignis, they said that was its main rival. And then very bullishly, they also said the Toyota Starlet Cross, they want to take that on. And
Good luck with that, Bull.
Yes. And by extension, the Suzuki Frox was another of the key rivals. Maybe in that context, top of the range versions will maybe steal some sales figures away from the base model Franks and Starlet Cross, but that's quite a tall order. So maybe Ignis will be more its direct rival.
So you've already said it, a win from your side, Exter, set for success.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Same here. We'll be watching those sales figures as soon as they get released, and we'll give Mark his wish and take one to Gerotech.
Minus the character, obviously.
Yeah, be careful for what you wish. You just might get it. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to us this week. I'm Jaco van der Merwe. I was joined by Mark Jones and Charles Bosch. If you liked it, go and like. You can share it, or you can even better follow our YouTube channel and stay tuned every week. Thanks for listening. Cheers.